Welcome back. I'm your host, Kelle Sparta, Transformational Shaman. I'm here with my friend and fellow coach, Joshua Radewan, who is a spiritual coach and specializing in the paranormal. And so today we are going to give you our top 10 picks for books that will change your life. And so we're going to start off today. Well, before we get there, I got to tell you, Josh, I almost died over the weekend.
You look pretty good for having gone through that. I would love to hear more about that.
I should have waited you should have heard him. I told him that just before we started the recording. He's like, "What? Holy crap, what?" So, yeah, I went whitewater rafting with friends of mine in from out of town. And in the first 2 minutes, the boat got hit and flipped up. And Jeff went out the front of the boat and I went out the side and got trapped underneath the boat.
Oh my
So when I
God.
say I almost died, I actually breathed in water and choked and, had to be dragged up into the boat and couldn't move for a while because I had no oxygen to move my muscles. And yeah, it was not good. Had to go to the doctor to make sure I didn't end up with dry drowning symptoms and die anyway, right? I don't know if you guys know this, but if you actually breathe in water and you're still going afterwards, you could die still. So you should definitely go get the doctor to check you out because dry drowning is a thing. So I was okay, but had a little trauma.
That is
So
wild. That is
yeah,
absolutely wild.
yeah. So as we're recording this, it's 12/12 of 2024, and so one of the things that I'm planning for this week is I'll be doing a guided meditation on how to remove active trauma from your energy field, and what to do once you've done that. So that was something that I did for myself when I was having flashbacks that evening. So yeah.
Typical
So
shaman, understanding the interconnectedness of all things and how to bring healing to the collective through your own traumatic
through
experience.
my own traumatic
That
experience, yeah, yeah, it
is
was
what
so
we do.
funny. I was on the boat with these guides, and they just were like, "Oh, la di da." They didn't really seem to grasp that I had been traumatized, as even, and their English wasn't so great. But I'm just like, I am traumatized. You need to stop putting my side of the boat towards the things because I am traumatized. I'm like, I know I don't look traumatized because I'm good at trauma. But please trust me, if you could hear on the outside what was going on inside of me right now, you would know that I am not okay. And they're like, la 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 la. But I was not going to let it out because then I would have been non-functional and that would have been extraordinarily dangerous. So, we don't do that. So, yeah, instead I just refused to sit on the side of the boat. I was like, my ass is planted on the bottom of this boat for the rest of the trip. I will paddle. I don't care if it fucks up my back, but my ass is on the bottom of this boat. You are not getting me on the edge. So for the record, when they say 3+ in the US, or when they say 3+ in Panama, it's 4+ in the US. So the grades are much different. It was extraordinarily terrifying. So 100% do not recommend. I was just
To
like,
go through that, to go through that right at the beginning of the trip just leaves the fear in you throughout the whole time too. That's got to be that had to be excruciating to continue to go through that. How long was the trip?
we put in at, I don't know, it was probably 3 hours total with
Oh my God.
there was probably a 40-minute break in the middle for lunch. But yeah, it was about,
And
they
less
gave
than
me the
1%
option
into
to,
the trip, you were
yeah,
already in the
yeah,
water and on breathing water.
yeah.
Wow.
And it could have been an hour more than that. They said you can get out here or we can get out an hour later. And I'm like, here. Like, I wanted out 2 minutes in. It was like we're getting out here. So yeah. Anyway, so moving on. The coming back to our book titles here. So, and before I forget, don't forget to like and subscribe and share because you get all these funky wild stories. All right. And so my first book on the list is my favorite book of all time. It has gotten me through so many different challenging times in my life. And it is Illusions, The Adventures of a Reluctant Messiah from Richard Bach. And Richard Bach, you'll probably remember Richard Bach if you went through school in the U.S. Because most schools these days have Jonathan Livingston Seagull on their reading list, and he wrote that book too, which is a great book, but it's not nearly as good as Illusions, in my opinion. So that is my top book of all time. It is also a book within a book, and so the book within the book is the Messiah's Handbook, and so it's got all these pithy little sayings that I actually in my teen years wrote out in calligraphy in a pen and put into a book so that I could just flip through the pages and pick something. So, yeah, I'm a big fan of illusions. Your favorite one that you've talked to me about, was that The Way of the Peaceful Warrior, or is it something different?
I would have to say Outwitting the Devil because it was the first book you recommended to me. Like when I came into the path, it was all about fear. And that book was the one that got me through it when I began to sit with Napoleon Hill. And what's brilliant about Napoleon Hill is he wrote this back in the 20s and it didn't get any play until the mid
They didn't release it.
2000s. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, because he called out everything. He
Yeah.
called out, he was so far ahead of his time with that book too. It was very prophetic, but like it was really about being able to release fear, being able to understand it, to step into it, and to stand face to face with it. And that is exactly what I needed at the beginning of my journey. I mean, you saw me; I came in the energetic fetal position, like I'm not doing well, and
Yeah.
that book was key to me getting to the point where I could actually come back and work with you on a deeper level. Because until I got rid of that piece, I was still struggling in my own addiction cycles, and it was really related to fear that was keeping me there. So I have a very soft spot in my heart for Napoleon Hill, that book, and for you recommending it.
Yeah, and just for the record, just like with illusions, which is all about learning how to recognize that we are living in an illusion, right? The Outwitting, so Illusions is the lesser famous book of Richard Bach's, and Outwitting the Devil is the lesser famous book of Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich, right? Which is a great book too, but Outwitting the Devil came out in, I think it was 2011 or 2012. That's when they finally released it because they thought they wouldn't get lynched for it now, or whatever, but it was a lot. And so the book that I had mentioned as well was The Way of the Peaceful Warrior, which is another book that I know you enjoyed because we talked about it, but it is a similar sort of thing to illusions in the fact it's understanding and recognizing that we are magical, right? And it's all about that idea and concept. And so that book was a really good one. And so if you've read Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance, which is another one that's big in the high schools in the US, it's a similar sort of concept to that book. And so, I find that men like that book more than women do usually, unless they're in their heavy warrior. And since I was a heavy warrior woman, I really liked it. So, but the next one on the list, and we've got a bunch of things. They're all over the board here, right? So the Celestine prophecy is where I want to go next. And the reason I want to do this one, so first thing I want to say is if you're not a book reader and you like to watch instead, the movie of the Celestine prophecy is pretty much the same as the book. There, obviously you miss some details, but it's effectively the same. So it's one of the few cases where I'm like, yeah, the movie's good enough, right? But the thing about the Celestine prophecy and the thing that I love so much about it, and the reason that I send people to it so often is because it is it's an empath's approach to the world, right? So if you're an empath, you're really gonna get this book, right? Because it is all about your feeling space and your sensing space and the ability to follow the path of synchronicity, right? And that's really what the Celestine prophecy is about synchronicities and about going where the universe takes you, even if it doesn't make sense. Trusting yourself, right?
Yeah, the synchronicity part was huge. I mean, like it helped me make sense of a lot of the Jungian style synchronicities that popped up throughout my journey. Another part of my favorite part of the movie as well is when he is kind of like hitting on that one woman and like you can see the energy overwhelming. I was like, oh, that's how energy works when we're not coming from that authentic place of love. So it was really, like it was an eye-opening time for me when I began to see what that looks like from the outside. And as a Scorpio with overwhelming energy, I was like, oh, this is a good lesson. So that was one of my favorite books. And once again, it was another recommendation from you in the work we've done together.
Yeah. So do you want to talk about the big leap next?
Yeah, this one was actually recommended by Catherine from the Wednesday podcast, and so it's about the upper limit problem that we have. So it's about, we have this limit of happiness that we allow ourselves to have before we start creating chaos in our lives to bring ourselves back down to our regular operating system. And it's all about bursting through that upper limit. So, for me, it had a lot of great relationship advice in there, and it's, so one of it was like, one of my favorite pieces was the recognition that both people are 100% of the problem to be able to come to a resolution. So, I mean, that right there, sometimes I read these books and I farm maybe one thing out of it. You spend 7 to 8 hours reading a book and then you mine that one piece of gold. And that was it for me. But that book is filled with it. There's a lot of great relationship stuff in there, and just a lot about how to break through the ceiling of happiness and how to allow yourself to, achieve those next layers of consciousness, of abundance, of wealth, of happiness, and to really step into that, more authentic part of yourself. So I really enjoyed that book.
Awesome. And so we'll go from the, how do I achieve the upper level stuff to how do I get out of where I am, which is, Will I Ever Be Good Enough? Is the book, and it's Healing the Daughters of Narcissistic Mothers. So this book is fantastic for understanding the generational issues that form in the mother-daughter relationship and the good enough stuff that comes out of that. And the thing I will say about this book, I love everything about this book except for the medical curse that it offers. And it says that you can never recover and that you can only manage to, ameliorate the situation, right? You can only make it better, right? I disagree with that heartily because I had the narcissistic mother. She was 5 years old my entire life. And if you've ever met a 5-year-old, you know exactly how narcissistic they are. It's all about them. And so, and I don't feel like I'm not good enough anymore. So it is fixable. So please do not take the curse when you read the book, but the book is actually worth reading. All right, so let's talk about healing as long as we're on that topic. You Can Heal Your Life by Louise Hay is a fantastic book for learning to understand how your body, how things manifest in your body. And I'm going to put this together with The Body Keeps the Score by Betta. Oh God. Okay. I don't know. My brain is not working.
Right.
Anyway, but she's an amazing author too. And The Body Keeps the Score and You Can Heal Your Life. I'm going to put these two together because they are both about how your emotional and energetic crap gets stored in your body and how it manifests and then how to clear it, right? So the thing I love about Louise Hay's book is that it is very specific. So you can say, okay, I've got hip pain. She'll say here's what that's about. I've got lower back pain. Here's what that's about. I've got, knee issues. Here's what that's about. And so the book is super helpful from that perspective. Whereas The Body Keeps the Score, wow, it's been so long since I've read that book. But if my memory serves, it's a little more on the generalized way of somatics, right? It's about understanding somatics and how things are stored in the body and things like that. So, and both perspectives are fantastic, right? So they are seminal books in the work of energetics, body, physicality overlap. So those are fantastic if you're working on anything along those lines. And then what have we missed? Conversations with God. So earlier in the year, we had Neale Donald Walsch on the show. And his first book that ever came out was Conversations with God. And I read that book way back. Like I read it in probably 1999 and 98, something like that. And the book is just about being able to communicate with your higher self, with God, with the universe, however you want to frame the language. And so if you've got religious trauma, just change the word God to the universe and you'll be fine, right? And it was just, for me, it was really good for grasping that I can actually have the conversation myself. I don't have to go through an intermediary, or I can get direct answers, right? And that was important too. He says himself that it is not channeling, although I got to tell you, it reads like channeling. And I would swear that that was the case. But I think it's more like automatic writing for him or something. I'm not sure. But yeah, it's a really good book from that perspective. Have you read that one, Josh?
I read part of it. That's one of them I got into. I got about halfway and then ended up on my floor next to the other 10 books I'm halfway through.
Yeah. Well, that's
I
pretty
got
much
what I
part of the
needed out
course.
of it, and it was actually automatic writing, which was funny because that's what I was going to bring up because I was studying automatic writing at the time, and I was like, does this actually work? And I was like, oh yeah, I guess it does. And that's what I needed to farm out of it from at that point. So maybe this is my sign to go back and finish that one along with the other nine
Well,
books.
automatic writing, for the record, is channeling, but that's, yeah, it is what it
Tomato,
is.
tomato.
Tomato, tomato. Yeah. So, and then the last book, because we're just doing 10 books today, but the last book is Creative Visualization by Shakti Gawain. It is important that you get it by Shakti Gawain because there is at least one other book in the book world that is by this title, and it is not the right one. Okay, so Creative Visualization by Shakti Gawain is if you want to create your own reality, and that's going to be the next episode we talk about is creating reality. And so I saved this one for last specifically to like bring you into the next episode. But if you want to create your own reality, this is the handbook on how to do that, right? She shows you exactly how to do all of this stuff. And I have been using her techniques for decades. I think I first read this book in it would have been late 90s, early 2000s. So it's been a long time. And it's a brilliant book on exactly how to do manifestation and reality creation. So the that book is again another seminal work for everything that's come out in the interim. So the wonders of having started this stuff when I did in the 70s is that I have a lot of sort of foundational knowledge of the books that came out at the time. And then I'm going to give you guys a bonus, and it's not a book, a specific book, but it's an author. If you are looking to learn anything in the magical world, if you want to learn anything in the sort of Wicca based magical world, Scott Cunningham is your man. Okay, that man wrote so many books, and everything he was any book of his that I've read, and I have not read them all, but every book of his that I've read was right on the money, really brilliantly done, fantastic, teaches you a lot. So if you're looking to learn sort of energy work, magic stuff, then pick up anything he's written and you'll be good. Okay. Um, Okay, did we do them all? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yes, we did them all. Okay, so that is our episode for today. I know it was pithy and short and sweet, but hopefully it will result in you having a pile of books at the side of your bed like Josh does. And which I got to tell you, pretty much everyone I know in this field ends up with a pile of books next to their bed that's partially written or partially read rather, and you open it to a random page and do divination by book, right? I do that all the time. I'm sad since I switched to Kindle because I don't do that as much anymore because I don't have physical books anymore, which is sad. I miss them. So, but yes, if you are out there looking for your next pile of books, these are them. Enjoy. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this episode with somebody who needs a new pile of books because they will appreciate you for it. And these books will change your life. So, and in the meantime, remember what you focus on expands. What you intend is what you create. So choose wisely.